All right, so our last example, we had a subquery that returned a single value. In this video, we're going to do a subquery that returns more than one value and see how do we handle that. I'm going to do a new query. In this one, we're going to try to answer a question. Which of our salespeople have made the most sales? And we're already familiar with the sales order header table. Okay, so let's look at, let's just start by let's look at it real quickly. I forgot to tell sales order header. There we go. Execute that. Okay. And in here we can see there's our salesperson ID. So we're trying to find our salespeople that have made sales. Okay. So that's pretty easy, right? Select salesperson ID. And this gives me all the salespeople. Gives me a lot of nulls too. And there's all my salespeople. But I don't want multiples, 200, 290, whoever this 290 guy, he's got a lot of sales in here. I don't want a lot of duplicates, so let's do distinct. Okay, so there's all my sales order people that have made sales. All my salespeople. Great, but that's not a single value, right? So we can't do, we can't use that as a subquery. Why do I want to use a subquery? Because when your boss comes and says, hey, I need to see all the salespeople that have made sales this month because I'm going to fire the ones that didn't, you can't just say, well, number 277 and 278. No, he wants to know Joe Brown. He wants to know names, right? So where do we get the names at? We're going to get that from the person.person table. So let's do another query here. Select last name, first name, and we'll go ahead and get their business entity ID. Yeah, I had to type that all out because I didn't use my little trick of typing the table first. Person.person table. So there's all my people and their business entity IDs. See this business entity ID here for Gustavo Achong, 291. My guess is this business entity ID in this lines up with the salesperson ID in that. So I want to see the people's names that go with this query. So I'll put where. Business entity ID is equal to the business entity ID returned by this. Okay, so here's my query with the subquery. Right? There it is. I want to do this and find out whose business entity ID equals the results from that query. So when I go ahead and run it, I have a problem because the subquery returns more than one value, and we saw that. Okay, so I can't say equals because it can't be equal to multiple things. So this is where we use a keyword that we've used in other languages before, and I think we've used it in SQL. We use in instead. Okay, so give me the people, keep people's first name and last name if their business entity ID matches the results from this subquery right here. And we'll execute this. And there we go. So there's that list of business entity IDs that we have before. And now we get the names. And notice we don't get the nulls either, right? The nulls kind of disappeared from here because the nulls didn't match anything. So they go away. You could have written this as a join. We could have joined these two tables and found the same results. That's that idea that we can use subqueries or joins to get the same results. Okay. So this is a multi-valued subquery. It returns multiple values. So we can't use equal, we have to use in. Now, something to keep in mind here is that a lot of times when our database is small, we'll write something using equals because the subquery only returns, think about this, the first day somebody made a sale. They only had one entry in there, right? Only one salesperson made a sale that first day, the first day of our company, right? So this query would have worked perfectly until at a later time, another salesperson made a sale. And now all of a sudden there were two results and equals doesn't work anymore. So a lot of times, even if your query only returns one value now, if it has the potential of returning more than one value in the future, you should always write your query using in. Also, in is not our only option. Okay. We can also use the keyword not. So if we have a list and we want to see the people who are matching entries who are not in that list, you can use the keyword not. I don't think that would fit this one very well. But there's also any and all. So how do those work? This says our results if it's greater than, when we use greater than or less than. Well, if you have 5 different values, greater than or less than which one? If you want it to be less than all the values that are returned, you use less than all. Okay. If you want it to be less than the highest value that was returned, then you use the keyword any. So beware of those. When we're using a comparison operator, we don't use in anymore. We use any or all. And we can also do exists. We can check to see if something exists in the results of our subquery. So sometimes we don't really care about what the values are. We just want to know, is there a value or is there not a value? So on top of in, we have any, all, and exists.